Okay, so cybersecurity, right. It's kind of a big deal these days. Huge,
Yeah.
especially for businesses.
Oh, yeah, with all the data they handle.
But let's be real.
Yeah.
Sometimes all the security stuff can be, well,
A bit of a pain.
yeah, for the people actually using those systems.
Makes sense.
So today we're diving into an article called Balancing Cybersecurity and User Experience. It's kind of a practical guide for businesses.
Right.
It was in Continuous Improvement magazine just last month,
Oh, recent.
October 26th.
Okay.
So what jumped out at you?
Well, the article really pushes this idea of a risk-based approach.
Okay.
And that's super important, I think.
So not treating every single threat as, like, equally dangerous.
Exactly. You don't want to go overboard on every little thing.
Right, like in a hospital,
Yeah.
they do triage. You focus on the most critical cases first.
Exactly. And the article talks about adaptive security frameworks, which I think is fascinating.
Oh, tell me more.
They can change, like, in real time,
Wow.
based on the threats at that moment.
So not just like a set of rules written down somewhere.
Nope. More like a living system.
Okay, so how does that actually work?
Well, instead of having these rigid rules that could actually slow things down,
Right.
you have systems that are constantly analyzing, detecting, responding
Got it.
based on how risky something actually is.
So give me an example.
Sure. So think about someone trying to log in,
Okay.
and it seems suspicious.
Uh-huh.
The system can lock everything down immediately.
Makes sense.
But what if it's just someone who forgot their password?
Happens to the best of us.
Right. So maybe it just sends a reminder or blocks them for a little bit.
Okay, I can see how that's way better than just locking me out completely because I mistyped something.
Right. It's finding that balance between being secure, but also making sure people can actually use the system.
Totally. I've been so frustrated when I get locked out of an account.
It's the worst.
So how do we make sure things are secure, but not make users jump through a million hoops?
Well, that's where this whole idea of user-centric security design comes in.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's about really thinking about the user
Okay.
every step of the way.
Not just as an afterthought.
Exactly. It's like you're designing the system with the user in mind from the very beginning.
Give me an example of what that might look like.
Sure, think about authentication.
Okay, so like two-factor authentication and all that,
Exactly.
which, I mean, it is important,
Oh, absolutely for security.
but man, it can be annoying.
Oh, yeah, typing in codes, checking emails for links.
And sometimes it just doesn't even work.
Ugh, the worst.
I was trying to buy something online once, and the two-factor authentication just wouldn't go through.
What happened?
I must have typed that code in like 20 times,
Oh, no.
and it kept rejecting it.
So frustrating.
I gave up. It was just too much.
Yeah, and that's exactly what user-centric design tries to avoid.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
Well, the article talks about things like biometrics or one-tap verification.
Okay, and those are still secure.
Oh, yeah. They can be just as secure, but way less of a hassle for the user.
I like that. Strong A&D convenient. I'm all for that.
Right. The article also mentions something called behavioral analytics for anomaly detection.
Okay, that sounds pretty high-tech.
It is pretty cool. Basically, it uses your behavior to figure out if something's off.
My behavior.
Yeah, like when you usually log in, what devices you use, where you are,
Okay.
and if something's really different from your normal pattern, it flags it.
So like if I usually log in from my computer at home in the evening, but then suddenly someone's trying to get into my account from like a cafe in Paris at 3 a.m,
Exactly.
they would be like, hold on, that's weird.
Exactly. And the best part is, it's all happening in the background.
Okay.
You don't even have to do anything extra.
Like a silent security guard.
I like that analogy.
But the article also brought up something else that's really important, and it's actually pretty simple.
What's that?
User education.
Oh, yeah. Crucial.
So not just having fancy technology, but making sure people know how to use it safely.
Exactly. It's about giving people the tools to make smart decisions about their security.
So more than just be careful online.
Way more. It's about recognizing phishing attempts,
Okay.
good passwords, knowing how to report something suspicious.
So it's making security everyone's responsibility, not just the IT department's problem.
Exactly.
Because even if you have the best security system in the world, if someone just leaves the door wide open...
Right. It's not going to help.
So how do we get people to actually take it seriously without overwhelming them with technical jargon?
Yeah, that's the challenge, right?
Right.
The article talked about making it engaging
Okay.
and accessible.
Uh-huh.
It can't just be a boring lecture.
Right.
It has to be practical stuff, real-world examples.
So instead of scaring people with all the bad things that could happen, give them things they can actually do.
Exactly. Make it empowering, not overwhelming.
I like that. So we've talked about managing risk, designing with the user in mind, educating people. It seems like a lot to balance.
It is a lot.
So what's the main takeaway for businesses and for all of us using this technology?
I think the main thing is that you can have both. You can have a strong cybersecurity A&D, a good experience for users.
That doesn't have to be one or the other.
Not at all. It's about smart technology, good design, educating people, and being willing to keep learning.
That makes sense because security isn't just about the tech, it's about people.
Exactly.
So how do we, as individuals, put all this into practice? How can we be both secure and happy online?
That's the question, isn't it? It's a great question.
It really is. Like when we think about our own digital lives,
Yeah.
what can we actually be?
Right. To be safe, but not make ourselves crazy.
Exactly. So passwords.
Ugh, passwords.
We all have so many.
I know it's a nightmare sometimes.
The article actually talked about how important it is to have good passwords.
Oh, absolutely. Can't stress that enough.
But they also said that constantly changing them can actually backfire.
Yeah, if you're forced to change your password every few weeks,
Right.
you end up with these, variations that are really easy to guess.
Oh, I've totally done that. Like just adding a number at the end or something.
Exactly.
There you
Or using the same base password for everything and just changing one little thing.
Makes it easy for hackers to crack.
Totally. So what can we do instead?
Well, they suggested using passphrases.
Passphrases.
Yeah, instead of like password 123,
Right, which is terrible, by the way.
you use a string of words.
Okay.
Like purple elephant dancing on Mars.
Okay, that's actually pretty good. I like that.
It's longer, harder to guess.
And easier to remember.
Exactly. And the article also talked about password managers.
Oh, yeah, those are lifesavers.
They can generate and store all those crazy passwords for you,
So you don't have to remember them all.
which is awesome. Okay, so passwords, check.
Head out.
Apps. We use so many apps these days.
Oh, yeah, for everything.
And the article talked about being mindful of the permissions we give them.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like, does that game really need access to your contacts and your location?
Probably not.
Right. So just taking a minute to think about what you're allowing those apps to see.
And being careful about what you download.
Yes. Only download apps from official sources.
Like the App Store or Google Play.
And make sure you're reading the reviews.
Oh, yeah, see what other people are saying.
Make sure it's a legitimate app.
Good point. And then there's social media.
Oh, boy.
That's a whole other can of worms.
The article talked about being aware of what you're sharing.
Yes. Oversharing can be risky,
Not just for your security.
but for your privacy, too.
Think before you post, right?
Exactly. And be careful about clicking on links.
Even if they're from people you know.
Yeah, accounts can get hacked.
And then there are those phishing scams.
Ugh, the worst.
They're getting so sophisticated these days.
It's scary.
So just being extra cautious.
If something seems too good to be true.
It probably is.
Right. And if you're ever unsure about a link or an email,
Don't click on it.
better safe than sorry.
Exactly. So I think the overall message here is be mindful.
Yes.
Take a moment to think about your digital security.
It's worth it.
It really is. It doesn't have to be complicated or overwhelming.
Just a few simple steps.
Can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, it's about protecting ourselves
And our information.
and enjoying the digital world.
Without constantly worrying.
Exactly.
That's the goal.
I think we did a good job today,
I think so too.
breaking down these complex ideas
Into bite-sized pieces.
and giving people some practical things they can actually do.
Hopefully people found it helpful.
I hope so. So until next time,
Stay safe out there, folks.
and stay secure.
Yeah, it all comes back to that balance.
Being secure, but not letting it take over your life.
Right, because at the end of the day, technology should make our lives easier,
Exactly. It's a tool.
not a burden.
So finding that sweet spot,
Where you feel protected,
but not restricted.
it's a journey,
It really is.
and it's different for everyone.
That's true.
What works for me might not work for you.
Right. So it's about figuring out what works best for your own situation.
Exactly, and being willing to adjust.
Because the digital world is constantly changing.
That's for sure.
New threats, new technologies, new ways of doing things.
So we have to be adaptable,
and keep learning.
always.
So I guess the takeaway here is
Anyway,
don't be afraid of technology.
yeah,
Embrace it, but use it wisely.
be smart about it.
Think about your security, but don't let it consume you.
Find that balance
Enjoy the digital world.
safely.
Well said. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I hope so.
It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time.
Stay secure, everyone.